His exploration will lead us to the heart of ancient Rome, where we shall quietly observe the everyday experiences of those who lived as slaves. Their lives, though often hidden in the shadow of history's grand narratives, offer us a glimpse into a world of intricate human interaction and quiet endurance. Let us begin our pondering of what it meant to be a slave in Roman society. For the Romans, the concept of a slave was embedded deeply within their cultural and economic structures, forming an essential part of their daily lives. The term slave, or servus in Latin, was used to describe individuals who were bound in servitude, owned by others, and whose lives were often dictated by the needs and desires of their masters. The roles and experiences of these individuals varied greatly, influenced by factors such as their location, the tasks they were assigned, and the temperament of those who owned them. From the bustling urban centers of Rome to the expansive rural estates, the existence of a slave could oscillate between relative comfort and harsh deprivation. Each role carried its own challenges and small rewards, and the daily rhythm of a slave's life was as diverse as Rome itself. In the cities, slaves could be found in almost every facet of public and private life. Some served in households, attending to the domestic needs of their owners, while others worked in workshops or at the bustling marketplaces, contributing to the thriving economy of the empire. Those in the countryside might labor on vast agricultural estates, tending to crops and livestock, their efforts sustaining the food supply upon which the city populations depended. Despite the differences in their duties and environments, Roman slaves shared a common thread of existence, bound by the constraints of their status and the expectations of their roles. The lives they lived, though often unseen and uncelebrated, were integral to the functioning of Roman society. Their presence was a constant, silent companion to the grandeur and ambition of an empire that stretched across continents and centuries. As we delve deeper into their world, we shall uncover how the system of slavery was not merely a backdrop, but a dynamic and complex network of human relationships and economic necessity. Through the quiet examination of their lives, we hope to understand not only the mechanisms of an ancient civilization, but also the enduring resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of profound limitation. This gentle exploration invites us to reflect on the intricacies of lives lived in service, to appreciate the subtle interplay of power and survival, and to acknowledge the silent contributions of those who shaped the ancient world from beneath its surface. As we settle into this narrative, we kindly ask you to share with us the time where you are, and perhaps the place from which you listen. Your presence here is part of a tapestry woven across time zones and landscapes. And if you find comfort and curiosity in our exploration, we warmly invite you to subscribe to our channel, The Wandering Mind, where gentle stories of history and nature await you. In the vast expanse of Roman civilization, the term slave signified more than a mere status. It encapsulated a range of experiences as diverse as the empire itself. To understand what it meant to be a slave in this society, one must first acknowledge the complexity of the roles, locations, and ownerships that defined daily life. In Roman times, the word slaves did not describe a uniform condition, but rather a tapestry of existence, woven with threads of various. At the heart of Roman society, slaves were an integral part of daily life, yet their experiences could differ dramatically based on where they found themselves within the societal hierarchy. In the bustling city of Rome, a slave might serve in a grand household, attending to the needs of their master with meticulous care. Here, within the intricate workings of a Roman domus, a slave's life was one of constant vigilance and service, yet it could also offer proximity to wealth and influence, allowing glimpses into the lives of the free. In contrast, the life of a slave in the rural expanses of the Roman countryside was shaped by the land itself. These slaves, often engaged in agricultural labor, felt the rhythms of nature in their bones. Their days were marked by the changing seasons, each bringing its own demands. Though removed from the urban hustle, the work was no less arduous, and the connection to the land provided a different kind of existence, one bound by the cycles of sowing and harvest. Ownership played a crucial role in determining the life of a slave. The nature of the master could greatly affect the conditions under which a slave lived. Some masters were known for their benevolence, granting their slaves a degree of autonomy and the potential for manumission. Others were harsher, ruling with an iron fist and leaving little room for hope. The whims and personalities of those in power could make a slave's life either bearable or burdensome, highlighting the unpredictable nature of their existence. The roles assigned to slaves were as varied as the empire itself. Household slaves, for instance, performed tasks that ranged from menial chores to managing the affairs of the household. Their work was essential in maintaining the smooth operation of domestic life. Skilled slaves, such as artisans or scribes, brought their talents to their master's service, their expertise a valued commodity in a society that prized craftsmanship and knowledge. Public slaves, on the other hand, were owned by the state and tasked with maintaining the infrastructure of Roman cities. Their work, though often unnoticed, was vital to the functioning of urban life. These slaves could be found repairing roads, maintaining public buildings, or serving in various administrative roles. Their lives, while still under the yoke of slavery, were closely tied to the community, their labor contributing to the greater good of the city. Regardless of their specific roles, all slaves shared a common reality: their lives were not their own. The absence of personal freedom was a defining feature of slavery, shaping every aspect of their existence. Slaves in Roman society were viewed as property, their worth determined by their ability to serve. This lack of autonomy was a constant reminder of their status, a silent undercurrent that influenced every interaction and decision. Over time, small changes in a slave's circumstances could accumulate, subtly altering the trajectory of their life. A change in ownership, for example, could bring about a shift in duties or conditions. Similarly, the gradual accumulation of skills or trust from a master might open up new opportunities, such as the possibility of earning one's freedom. In a world where change was often slow and incremental, these shifts held the potential to transform a life over time. In this complex system, the word slave held a multitude of meanings, each layered with nuances and implications. It was a term that reflected not only a societal role, but also the human experiences that lay beneath it. As we consider what it meant to be a slave in Roman society, we see a life defined by its constraints, yet rich in its diversity, a testament to the enduring complexity of human existence. In the vast expanse of Roman society, the concept of slavery was deeply woven into its fabric, a quiet thread running through the lives of both the enslaved and the free. The ways in which individuals became slaves were varied, yet each path was a reflection of the complex social and economic structures of the time. One of the most common routes into slavery was through the aftermath of war. As Roman legions expanded the empire, they often brought back prisoners of war, who were then absorbed into the population as slaves. This practice was not merely a consequence of conflict, but a deliberate strategy. Conquered peoples, regardless of their previous status or culture, could find themselves uprooted and resettled, their fates sealed by the fortunes of battle. Over time, these once independent individuals became part of the economic backbone of the Roman world, their labor a quiet engine driving the empire's growth. Birth also played a significant role in perpetuating the system of slavery. The offspring of slaves were automatically considered slaves themselves, a cycle that reinforced the institution across generations. This inheritance of status meant that many were born into a life they did not choose, their futures largely predetermined by the circumstances of their birth. The simplicity of this rule ensured that the slave population could be maintained or even increased without the need for external sources. Debt was another pathway into slavery, particularly for those living on the fringes of financial stability. In times of hardship, individuals might find themselves unable to repay loans or meet financial obligations. Under Roman law, such debts could result in a person being sold into slavery as a form of repayment. This was a stark reminder of the precarious nature of life for many in the ancient world, where the line between freedom and servitude could be as thin as a coin. Piracy, too, contributed to the population of slaves within the empire. The Mediterranean Sea, while a critical artery of trade and communication, was also rife with piracy. Captives taken by pirates were often sold into slavery, their lives irrevocably altered by the unpredictability of maritime ventures. This practice underscored the perilous nature of travel during this period, where merchants and travelers faced the constant risk of capture and enslavement. Trade networks also played a crucial role in the dissemination of slavery throughout the Roman Empire. Markets for slaves were established in many cities, with traders specializing in the buying and selling of human lives. These markets were not hidden, but were a visible aspect of commercial life, reflecting the normalization of slavery within society. The movement of slaves through these networks was as systematic as the trade in any other commodity, a testament to the deeply entrenched nature of the practice. Together, these methods of entering slavery formed a comprehensive system, one that was accepted and perpetuated across centuries. Each method, while distinct, contributed to a wider understanding of how slavery functioned as an institution. It was not merely a series of isolated incidents, but a structured part of Roman civilization, deeply integrated into its economic, social, and political systems. The gradual accumulation of these practices over time ensured that slavery remained an enduring element of Roman life. The mechanisms that supported it were not only resilient but adaptive, capable of maintaining the institution even as the empire itself evolved. By understanding these pathways, one gains insight into the broader forces that shaped the lives of millions, offering a glimpse into the complexities of a world both foreign and familiar. In this quiet reflection, one can see the enduring impact of these systems, not only in their immediate effects, but in the echoes they left across history. The lives affected by these practices were numerous and varied, each one a testament to the intricate web of circumstances that could lead an individual into slavery. It is within this context that the legacy of Roman slavery continues to be understood, a subtle yet powerful force that shaped the course of human history. In the vast expanse of Roman society, the lives of slaves were shaped by the roles they were given. Not a monolithic group, these individuals were woven into the fabric of daily life through various functions and duties. Each role dictated not only the tasks they performed, but also the nuances of their existence within the empire. The household slaves, often seen as the most visible, were integral to the running of Roman homes. They worked closely with their masters, attending to personal care, managing domestic tasks, and ensuring that the household operated smoothly. These slaves could be found in the kitchens, the atriums, and the private quarters, always present yet seldom acknowledged. Their lives were governed by the rhythms of the family they served, shaping their days around the needs and whims of those they tended to. In contrast, agricultural slaves inhabited the rural landscapes of the empire. Their lives were tied to the cycles of nature, laboring in the fields from dawn until dusk. The demands of the land were unrelenting, requiring strength and endurance. These slaves sowed seeds, tended to crops, and harvested produce, their efforts essential to sustaining the empire's food supply. Despite the physical toll, there was a certain predictability to their lives, dictated by the seasons rather than the intricate dynamics of a household. Skilled workers and artisans represented another facet of Roman slavery. These individuals brought with them talents that were highly valued, yet underappreciated. Craftspeople, metalworkers, and weavers, they contributed to the material culture of Rome, creating objects of both utility and beauty. Their skill set them apart, granting them a degree of respect from their owners, but it did not offer them autonomy. The fruits of their labor were not their own, and their expertise, while prized, chained them to the whims of those who claimed ownership. Public slaves, owned by the state rather than individuals, occupied a unique position. They maintained the infrastructure of cities, working on roads, aqueducts, and public buildings. Their efforts were seen in the functioning of public baths, the cleanliness of streets, and the upkeep of temples. Though their work was vital, these slaves were often invisible, their contributions blending seamlessly into the background of urban life. Each role carried with it a distinct set of expectations and a particular way of life. While household slaves might find themselves in closer proximity to their owners, agricultural slaves experienced a different kind of isolation, their world defined by the expanses of farmland. Skilled workers navigated a delicate balance between being valued for their abilities and being limited by their status. Public slaves, meanwhile, served not a single master but the broader civic good, their lives intertwined with the functioning of the city. In this complex tapestry, no two slaves lived the same life. Their roles determined their routines, their living conditions, and even their prospects for the future. A household slave might find freedom through the goodwill of a master, while an agricultural laborer might toil for a lifetime without such hope. The skilled artisan could carve out a niche of relative comfort, yet remain tethered to another's prosperity, and the public slave might see the fruits of their labor celebrated without ever tasting personal recognition. Through it all, these roles coalesced into the broader structure of Roman society, each part vital to the whole, yet each life a quiet testament to the empire's reliance on unseen hands. In understanding these roles, one gains insight into the silent workings of a civilization that thrived on the contributions of those who lived in the shadows, their lives shaped not by choice, but by circumstance. In the quiet moments of a Roman night, when the city or countryside lay still under the watchful stars, the sleeping arrangements of slaves reflected the varied tapestry of their lives. Where one laid their head at night could tell you much about their standing and the nature of their duties. In the grand villas and bustling urban centers, the spaces allocated for rest were as diverse as the tasks performed by those who occupied them. In the heart of a Roman household, the storeroom often served a dual purpose. Here, amidst amphorae filled with oil and wine, sacks of grain, and other household provisions, many slaves found their place of rest. The storeroom was rarely a space of comfort, more a practical solution to a perennial problem of space and economy. The cool, dry air was a refuge from the day's heat, but the hard floor offered little in the way of solace. Simple blankets or straw mats were often the only barrier between body and stone, a stark reminder of their status. In larger homes, where the social hierarchy extended even to those in bondage, some slaves occupied shared quarters. These shared spaces were often tucked away from the main living areas, modest in their furnishings and communal by necessity. The quarters would hum with the quiet rhythms of routine, rustling straw, soft whispers, and the occasional snore blending into a nightly symphony. Here, the bonds of camaraderie were often forged, as those who worked side by side through the day found solace in shared experiences. The quarters were simple, yet they offered a fleeting sense of community in an otherwise isolated existence. In the countryside, where the sprawling estates were boundless and the labor relentless, sleeping arrangements took on a different character. Agricultural slaves who toiled under the open sky often found their repose in barns or basic huts. These structures, rudimentary and functional, stood close to the fields, a testament to the demands of their toil. The scent of hay and earth lingered in the air, mingling with the quiet of the rural night. Here, the rhythm of life was dictated by the seasons, and the simplicity of their sleeping quarters mirrored the unchanging cycle of planting and harvest. In some instances, those tasked with more personal service to their masters found themselves in closer proximity to the family they served. A small corner or a corridor near the main living quarters might be designated to them, ensuring they were readily available to attend to any nocturnal needs. This proximity was both a burden and a privilege, a constant reminder of their place within the household's intricate social web. The closeness to their masters amplified the expectations placed upon them, a silent vigilance maintained even in rest. The sleeping arrangements of slaves were not merely about practicality or comfort. They spoke to the broader systems of control and dependency that underpinned Roman society. The locations where slaves slept were chosen for their utility, a means to ensure the smooth operation of the household or estate. Yet, within these spaces, a quiet resilience often emerged, as individuals sought to carve out moments of rest and respite amidst the demands of their existence. In this nightly retreat, the boundaries of identity and role could briefly blur. The storeroom, the shared quarters, the barn, each provided a backdrop against which the lives of slaves unfolded. Here, under the cover of darkness, they were free, if only for a few hours, from the gaze and demands of their masters. It was in these moments that the human spirit could breathe, finding comfort not in material surroundings, but in the shared understanding of a life lived in service. As the night deepened and the world around them grew silent, these spaces of rest became small enclaves of personal history. Each location held stories of those who had passed through, their hopes and fears etched into the very fabric of their sleeping quarters. In the morning, the cycle would begin anew, but for a few precious hours, the storeroom, the barn, the shared quarters were sanctuaries of stillness and reflection. The sleeping arrangements of Roman slaves were a microcosm of the broader society, reflecting its complexities and hierarchies. They were a testament to the resilience and adaptability of those who lived within a system that demanded much and offered little. Yet, within these constraints, life continued, quietly, persistently, and with a dignity that defied the simplicity of their surroundings. In the pale gray light of pre-dawn, a Roman household rests in stillness. Yet, beneath this quiet surface, a subtle hum of activity begins to stir. Before the first glimpse of sunlight touches the rooftops, certain individuals rise from their brief slumber. These are the slaves, whose day commences in the gentle embrace of morning shadows. Their movements are deliberate and measured as they silently navigate the dim corridors and courtyards. The first task involves coaxing life from the embers of the previous night's fire. In the heart of the household, the hearth serves as both a practical and symbolic center. A slave, adept in the art of tending flames, kneels to nurture the faint glow back into a steady warmth. This act requires patience, as the fire must be rekindled with care, using kindling and a steady breath. The crackling of new flames signals the start of another day, a sound that resonates softly against the silence of dawn. Meanwhile, another slave makes their way to the well or nearby stream, guided by instinct and the dim outlines of familiar landmarks. The task of fetching water is one of quiet significance, essential for the day's needs, yet often unseen by those who will benefit from it. With steady hands, they fill earthenware vessels, ensuring that the household supply remains ample. This water, cool and clear, is a vital thread in the fabric of daily life, weaving its way into cooking, washing, and the simple necessity of quenching thirst. As the first hues of morning seep into the sky, the slaves continue their preparations. Each task is performed with a quiet efficiency, honed through repetition and necessity. In the kitchen, ingredients are assembled with care, laying the groundwork for the meals that will sustain the household. The rhythmic chopping of vegetables, the gentle clatter of pots, and the soft rustle of grain being measured into bowls create a symphony of activity that remains understated yet purposeful. Elsewhere, other slaves attend to the myriad of small duties that must be completed before the household awakens. Floors are swept, surfaces dusted, and furniture arranged with an eye for order and function. Each movement is imbued with an understanding of the household's rhythm, a dance performed in silence and shadow. The morning air is crisp, and carries the faint scents of earth and foliage, which mingle with the aromas rising from the kitchen. As the first signs of life begin to stir within the household proper, the invisible work of the slaves becomes apparent. Fires crackle warmly, water stands ready for use, and the home exudes a subtle sense of readiness, prepared for the day ahead. For these individuals, the early hours are both familiar and fleeting. The tasks they perform are as much a part of their existence as the air they breathe. Yet, within the routine lies a quiet dignity, an understanding that their labors are integral to the household's functioning. This morning's symphony, played out in hushed tones, is the first act in a day that will unfold with a gentle inevitability. The dawn gradually breaks, casting soft light across the courtyard, illuminating the paths trodden by generations of feet. The slaves, having set the day in motion, continue with their duties, each step a testament to their role within this ancient rhythm. As the world slowly awakens, they move seamlessly into the background, their presence a constant, steady force that remains quietly essential. As dawn's first light gently touches the sleeping city of Rome, a quiet stir begins within the hidden realms of a Roman household. These are the hours unseen by most, where the day is set in motion by hands that move with silent efficiency. The life of a Roman slave, particularly in a domestic setting, is one of early starts and meticulous duties, each day a cycle that begins anew with the rising sun. In the stillness before the household awakens, slaves move through dim corridors, their tasks well rehearsed and swift. Cleaning is often the first duty to be addressed. Floors must be swept, surfaces wiped, and the dust of yesterday's activity must be banished before the family rises. Each task is performed with a practiced rhythm, an unspoken understanding of the importance of maintaining order and cleanliness in every corner of the home. Cooking follows closely behind in this sequence of morning responsibilities. The preparation of meals is both a skill and an art, performed quietly yet with precision. Fires are stoked, and simple ingredients are transformed into nourishing dishes that will sustain the household throughout the day. While the fare is often humble grains, vegetables, perhaps a small portion of meat, the act of cooking requires attention and care, ensuring that each meal fulfills its purpose without fanfare or excess. As the morning unfolds, the dressing of masters becomes another crucial task. This requires not only dexterity, but a keen awareness of the preferences and routines of those they serve. Clothing is laid out, garments carefully chosen for the day's activities, whether they be formal occasions or more mundane tasks. Each item must be presented neat and ready, a reflection of the household's status and the slave's attentive service. These duties, though varied, share a common thread. They are performed with an understated diligence that speaks to the nature of life in servitude. There is little room for error, yet the tasks are often completed without direct oversight, relying instead on the slave's internalized understanding of their role within the household. This quiet efficiency ensures that the day begins smoothly, a seamless transition from night to day. In these morning hours, the household is a world unto itself, a microcosm of Roman society where hierarchy is respected and roles are clearly defined. The slave's work is a foundation, unseen yet essential, supporting the rhythm of daily life. Each task, while seemingly small, contributes to the larger tapestry of the household's function, a testament to the invisible labor that sustains Roman civilization. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the household stirs with life, unaware of the early efforts that have paved the way for another day. The quiet hum of morning duties fades into the background, absorbed into the fabric of the day. Yet, for the slaves, this is merely the beginning, a prelude to the continuous cycle of tasks that define their existence. Their work, though often overlooked, is a silent testament to their resilience and dedication, a reminder of the countless lives that have been quietly lived in service to others. In the quiet corners of Roman households, where the hum of daily life persisted with rhythm and purpose, the sustenance of those in servitude unfolded with a certain predictability. Meals for Roman slaves were modest affairs, often reflecting the simplicity of their roles within the larger social structure. The staple of their diet was grain, a humble yet essential component of their nutrition. Barley or wheat, ground into coarse flour and mixed with water, formed the basis of pulse, a kind of porridge that was both filling and easy to prepare. Vegetables added variety to their meals, with cabbage, onions, and legumes being common choices. These foods were not only inexpensive, but also hearty, providing the necessary nourishment to sustain long hours of labor. The preparation of these meals was straightforward, designed to be consumed efficiently. There was little time for elaborate cooking or indulgent flavors. The focus was on utility and sustenance. Meals were typically eaten quickly, often in solitude or amidst the quiet company of other slaves. Leisure was a luxury rarely afforded to those whose days were dictated by the needs of their masters. Instead, meals were snatched between tasks, a brief pause to replenish energy before resuming the relentless flow of duties. In this way, the act of eating became another task, woven seamlessly into the fabric of daily life. The monotony of such a diet, while perhaps unremarkable, was broken occasionally by leftovers from the master's table. These remnants, however sparse, were a small nod to the culinary diversity of Roman cuisine, offering fleeting tastes of meats or more exotic fare. Yet these were exceptions rather than the rule, small indulgences in an otherwise unvaried routine. While the simplicity of their meals might seem austere, it was also emblematic of the broader societal structure. The food provided to slaves was a reflection of their position, necessary for survival, but devoid of extravagance. It mirrored the utilitarian nature of their existence, where practical needs overshadowed personal desires. Over time, the repetitive nature of these meals could impart a certain rhythm to the lives of slaves, grounding their days with moments of predictability amidst the unpredictability of servitude. This routine, though monotonous, provided a sense of stability, a constant in the ever-changing demands of their roles. Small changes in the availability of certain foods, dictated by seasons or harvests, quietly influenced these meals. The abundance or scarcity of vegetables, for instance, would affect the composition of their diet, subtly altering the daily fare. Such shifts, while minor, echoed the larger cycles of nature and agriculture, underscoring the interconnectedness of life in the Roman world. In the evening, as tasks wound down and the day's labors drew to a close, the final meal would offer a momentary respite. It was a time to gather with fellow slaves, sharing not just food, but also the silent companionship of shared experiences. These meals, though simple, held a certain significance, a quiet acknowledgement of a day's work completed, and the promise of rest before the cycle began anew. Thus, the food and basic rations of Roman slaves were more than mere sustenance. They were a reflection of the societal structures that defined their lives, a testament to the endurance required to. In their simplicity, these meals spoke volumes about the resilience of those who, in their humble way, sustained the vast machinery of Roman civilization. In the quiet heart of a Roman household, the rhythm of daily life unfolded with a steady precision, silent yet unyielding. Within these walls, a delicate balance was maintained by those who worked tirelessly, often unseen and unacknowledged. The domestic labor that kept such households functioning was a world unto itself, complex and multifaceted, woven with care and attention to detail. Each day began in the pale light of dawn, when the household was still veiled in a soft slumber. Slaves moved with quiet purpose, their footsteps barely audible on the cool stone floors. Their tasks varied widely, each contributing to the seamless operation of the household. Cleaning was a constant endeavor, as dust and debris had a way of accumulating in the grand spaces of Roman homes. Floors were swept and polished, ensuring they shone with a welcoming glow. The air was refreshed, windows opened to allow the gentle breeze to carry away the stale remnants of the night. The preparation of meals was another cornerstone of domestic life. In the kitchens, the slaves worked with skill and efficiency, transforming simple ingredients into nourishing sustenance. Fresh bread was baked daily, filling the air with a comforting aroma. Vegetables were chopped and simmered, their flavors mingling to create dishes that would sustain both master and servant. The act of cooking was one of quiet mastery, a daily ritual performed with the same care and attention as any art form. Beyond the kitchen, personal service required a more intimate touch. Attending to the needs of the household's members, slaves ensured that their masters were clothed and groomed, each garment selected with precision, each hair smoothed with careful fingers. These tasks, though seemingly small, were performed with unwavering dedication, forming a part of the larger tapestry of service that defined their existence. Quietly, in the background, the maintenance of order and routine was paramount. Linens were laundered and pressed, the crisp fabric a testament to the care taken in their upkeep. The household's furnishings were tended to with similar diligence, each piece polished until it gleamed, each room arranged with an eye for harmony and balance. Such attention to detail was not merely for appearances, it was a reflection of the respect and pride taken in their work. Communication was another subtle yet vital component. Slaves often acted as intermediaries, conveying messages between members of the household or to those beyond its walls. Their understanding of the nuances of their master's needs and desires was crucial, as they navigated the complexities of social interactions with tact and discretion. This role required an astute awareness, an ability to perceive and respond to the unspoken cues that dictated much of Roman social life. The garden, too, was a domain of quiet labor. Here, slaves tended to the plants and flowers, their hands working the soil with a gentle expertise. The cultivation of such spaces was both practical and aesthetic, providing food and beauty, a reminder of nature's bounty amidst the urban landscape. The garden was a place of refuge and contemplation, tended with the same care as the household itself. Throughout the day, the flow of tasks continued, each one blending seamlessly into the next. Yet, despite the constant activity, there was a sense of calm that pervaded these efforts. The slaves moved with a practiced ease, their actions guided by an ingrained understanding of their duties. Even in the face of the demands placed upon them, there was a quiet dignity in their work, a steadfast commitment to the roles they fulfilled. In the evenings, as the household settled into a gentle stillness, the slaves' work did not cease completely. Final tasks were attended to with a serene diligence. The day's labors concluded in a manner befitting their dedication. The smooth operation of a Roman household was a testament to the myriad contributions of those who labored within it, their efforts a silent but essential force in the daily life of ancient Rome. In this environment, the lives of Roman slaves were interwoven with the fabric of the household, their roles both varied and vital. Through their service, the household thrived, each task a quiet testament to their skill and perseverance. As the day drew to a close, the contributions of these individuals remained largely unspoken, yet their impact was profound, a gentle but enduring presence in the world they helped sustain. In the Roman world, the bustling heart of urban life was found in its workshops and shops, where the hum of industry was ever present. This domain was not solely the realm of free citizens, but also of slaves, whose hands crafted many of the goods and wares that sustained the empire. Within these spaces, a unique tapestry of life unfolded, one that wove together skill, labor, and the quiet endurance of those bound in servitude. The role of a slave in these settings was often defined by the skills they possessed or were trained to develop. Craftspeople, under the ownership of their masters, could be found shaping clay into pottery, weaving thread into cloth, or hammering metal into tools and ornaments. Each task required a steady hand and an attentive mind, as the quality of their work directly reflected upon their owners. These slaves were valued for their expertise and, in some cases, their reputations as artisans extended beyond the confines of their status. In the quiet confines of a workshop, a potter's wheel spun slowly as clay was molded with precision. The process of shaping a simple vessel was a testament to patience and practice. With each rotation, the wet clay responded to the gentle pressure of fingers, transforming gradually from a shapeless lump into a form with purpose. The mastery of such a craft was often honed over years, sometimes passed down through generations. Despite their bondage, these skilled slaves were an integral part of the economic fabric, their contributions often unseen yet essential. Nearby, in a shop filled with rolls of fabric and spools of thread, a weaver worked with rhythmic consistency. The loom, an instrument of both creation and confinement, dictated the pace of their day. Threads intertwined, forming patterns that spoke of tradition and utility. The weaver's task was to maintain a delicate balance between speed and quality, as the demand for textiles was ever present in Roman society. Here, the quiet accumulation of skill and diligence ensured that the shop remained a vital source of goods for the community. Beyond the crafts, some slaves served as clerks in these commercial spaces. Their days were spent amongst scrolls and tablets, recording transactions and managing inventories. The role of a clerk required literacy and numeracy, skills not commonly found among the enslaved, but highly prized by their masters. These slaves acted as the unseen backbone of their masters' enterprises, ensuring that the flow of goods and money continued smoothly. In doing so, they acquired knowledge that, while valuable, further reinforced their position within the intricate hierarchy of Roman society. The experience of working in workshops and shops was not monolithic. The nature of a slave's daily life could vary significantly depending on the type of work and the disposition of the master. For some, the workshop was a place of relative stability, where the routine of crafting offered a modicum of predictability. For others, the pressure to produce and the ever-watchful eye of an overseer added layers of tension to their toil. Yet, quietly and persistently, they contributed to the bustling economy that thrived on their labor. As time passed, the skills of these slaves often improved, leading to increased responsibilities and, in some cases, a degree of respect from their masters and peers. This gradual accumulation of trust could result in more autonomy within their roles, though true freedom was an aspiration that lay largely beyond their reach. The boundaries of their lives were defined not by the walls of their workshops, but by the societal structures that held them in place. In this environment, small changes accrued over time, both in the skills of the individuals and in the broader economic landscape. The constant demand for goods ensured that these workshops and shops remained active, their output a testament to the labor of those within. Each finished product signified not only the completion of a task, but also a continuation of the ongoing cycle of work and service. The end of a day in the workshop or shop brought a momentary pause, a brief respite before the cycle began anew. Finished goods were set aside, tools were cleaned and stored, and the slaves prepared to leave the space that had been their world for hours on end. As they stepped away from their tasks, they carried with them the quiet knowledge of a day's work completed, a small thread in the larger tapestry of Roman life. In the gentle folds of evening, the streets of Rome continued to echo with the day's activities, while the slaves returned to their quarters, their minds perhaps turning to the tasks of tomorrow. The rhythm of their lives was dictated by the needs of others, yet within that rhythm they found a place of their own, crafting not only goods, but also their own stories, quietly and with resilience. In the vast expanse of the Roman countryside, where the land stretches under an endless sky, agricultural slaves toiled quietly. Their days began with the earliest light, a gentle reminder of the enduring cycle of nature. The fields extended in every direction, a patchwork of crops that relied on the steady hands and enduring strength of these individuals. Here, life was measured not by the ticking of a clock, but by the changing of the seasons, the growth of the crops, and the daily rhythm of the sun. The work of an agricultural slave was intimately tied to the land, an unending task that demanded both physical endurance and familiarity with the soil. From the planting of seeds to the harvest, their hands knew every inch of the earth. The turning of the soil, the careful planting, and the nurturing of crops required a knowledge passed down quietly through generations. Each task was performed with a methodical precision, ensuring that the produce would be plentiful and the estate would thrive. As the sun rose higher, warm and steady, the labor continued. The fields were alive with the sounds of work, the soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, and the rhythmic creak of tools. Each moment was a part of a larger tapestry, the quiet progress of cultivation that fed the empire. The tools were simple yet effective, extensions of the hands that wielded them. A plow drawn through the earth, a scythe sweeping through the grain, each action a note in the symphony of agricultural life. Throughout the day, the slaves worked in groups, their efforts synchronized and seamless. Though their voices were rarely heard, their presence was felt in the very growth of the crops they tended. Communication was often wordless, a shared understanding born from time spent together in the fields. The bonds formed here were forged in shared labor, a quiet companionship amidst the toil. Time passed slowly in the fields, marked by the movement of the sun across the sky. As the day progressed, the intensity of the work ebbed and flowed with the heat. In the midday sun, a brief respite was taken, a moment to gather strength and to appreciate the vastness of the world around them. The shade of a tree or the coolness of a breeze offered a small comfort, a reminder of the natural world that surrounded their lives. The return to work was gradual, a gentle easing back into the rhythm of the day. The tasks varied with the seasons, each with its own demands and rewards. In spring, the planting was a hopeful act, the placing of seeds into the earth with the promise of growth. Summer brought the nurturing of crops, the careful tending to ensure a bountiful harvest. Autumn was a time of reaping, of gathering the fruits of their labor. Winter, though quieter, required preparation, ensuring the land was ready to rest and renew. The life of an agricultural slave was not without its hardships. The work was unrelenting, the demands of the land ever present. Yet within this existence there was a sense of purpose, a connection to the cycles of nature that governed their world. The seasons changed, the crops grew and were harvested, and through it all, the slaves remained a constant presence, their efforts quietly sustaining the estate. As the day drew to a close, the light softened, casting long shadows across the fields. The tools were put away, the day's work completed, and a sense of quiet satisfaction settled over the land. The slaves returned to their quarters, their bodies tired, but their spirits often buoyed by the knowledge of a job well done. In the stillness of the evening, there was a moment of reflection, a pause to consider the day's achievements and to prepare for the tasks that lay ahead. The life of an agricultural slave was one of endurance and resilience, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Though their voices may not have been heard, their impact was indelible, woven into the very fabric of Roman life. As they rested, the land around them seemed to breathe, the gentle whisper of the wind, a lullaby to the weary. In this quiet world, the agricultural slaves found a rhythm, a life lived in harmony with the earth, and a legacy that would endure long after the day's work was done. In the ancient landscape of Roman civilization, there existed a world of quiet complexity, where the lives of many were intertwined with the needs of the city. Among these lives were the public slaves, individuals who moved through the urban fabric, their presence both essential and unnoticed. These slaves belonged not to a private household, but to the city itself, serving a role that was at once integral and invisible. Their existence was woven into the very infrastructure of Rome, a city that demanded constant care and attention. As morning light touched the city, public slaves were already at work, engaged in tasks as varied as the streets they traversed. They were the custodians of the public domain, their efforts maintaining the smooth operation of Roman life. The roads, a crucial network of stone and dirt, required regular upkeep. These pathways connected the bustling heart of the city to its quieter outskirts, facilitating commerce, communication, and control. Public slaves with tools in hand ensured that these arteries of movement remained unobstructed and reliable. Over time, their diligent labor quietly transformed the cityscape, preserving the vital links that sustained Roman society. In addition to roads, the city's infrastructure extended to its aqueducts, the remarkable conduits that brought fresh water from distant sources into the heart of Rome. These structures, feats of engineering and ambition, demanded constant vigilance. Public slaves worked to maintain the flow of water, inspecting channels, clearing obstructions, and repairing damage. Their work was unending yet crucial, for the aqueducts provided life-giving water to the city's baths, fountains, and households. This ceaseless task, carried out with quiet dedication, ensured that the city's thirst was never left unquenched. Public buildings, too, fell under the care of these slaves. Temples, baths, and administrative offices required attention and upkeep. The slaves swept floors, cleaned walls, and ensured that these spaces remained fit for use. Their hands touched every corner of the city, leaving behind a trail of cleanliness that was expected yet unnoticed. Each task, though small, contributed to the larger tapestry of Roman public life, a life that hummed along with steady efficiency. In the administrative offices, public slaves performed roles that required both skill and discretion. They acted as clerks, scribes, and assistants, managing documents and aiding in the bureaucratic functions of the state. Here, their work was more than physical. It was mental, requiring an understanding of the administrative processes that underpinned Roman governance. The quiet shuffle of parchment and the soft scratch of stylus on tablet were the sounds of order maintained, a rhythm that kept the city's affairs in balance. Among their many duties, public slaves also played a part in the maintenance of public baths, essential spaces for hygiene and social interaction. These baths, frequented by citizens of various standings, needed constant attention to remain welcoming and functional. Slaves tended the fires that heated the water, scrubbed the marble surfaces, and ensured that all was in order for the daily influx of bathers. Their efforts, though largely unacknowledged, allowed these communal spaces to thrive as centers of relaxation and socialization. As the day unfolded, public slaves moved through their tasks with a quiet persistence. Their lives were marked by routine, a series of actions repeated day after day. Yet within this routine, there was a sense of purpose, a knowledge that their work supported the very structure of Roman society. The city, with its grandeur and complexity, depended on their unseen labor, a fact that was both humbling and significant. The balance of the city rested on the shoulders of these individuals, their contributions forming the backbone of public life. Without their steady hands and unyielding commitment, the city would falter, its systems crumbling under the weight of neglect. But with their care, the city thrived, its streets bustling and its structures standing in silent testimony to their work. In this rhythm of work and maintenance, the lives of public slaves unfolded with a calm continuity. Their existence was one of service, a life lived in the shadow of the city's needs. Yet within this service, there was a quiet dignity, a recognition of their role in the greater scheme of things. Each task completed was a small yet vital piece of a much larger puzzle, a puzzle that spanned the entirety of Roman urban life. As the day drew to a close, the city settled into a softer pace. The work of the public slaves, though largely complete, lingered in the maintained roads, the flowing water, and the clean public spaces. Their efforts, though fleeting in nature, left a lasting impression on the city they served. In the gentle embrace of evening, the slaves rested, their minds and bodies preparing to rise again with the dawn, ready to continue their quiet stewardship of the city. Thus, the lives of public slaves were woven into the fabric of Rome, their presence a constant yet often overlooked force of stability. Through their labor, the city was able to function, its grand aspirations supported by the humble work of those who served it. This delicate balance between the visible and the unseen, the acknowledged and the forgotten, formed the essence of Roman public life, a life sustained by the quiet dedication of its public slaves. In the structured world of ancient Rome, a system of discipline and punishment was woven deeply into the fabric of daily life. This system, though harsh, was a crucial mechanism by which order was maintained. The expectations set forth for slaves were clear, and the rules governing their behavior were rigidly enforced. These rules, often unwritten yet universally understood, dictated every aspect of a slave's existence, from the tasks they performed to the way they interacted with their masters and each other. Slaves in Roman society were expected to display absolute obedience. Their days were filled with tasks that required diligence and precision. The nature of their duties varied widely, yet the underlying expectation of unerring compliance remained constant. Whether tending to the household, working in the fields, or assisting in a workshop, a slave's performance was subject to the scrutiny of those above them. This scrutiny served as a constant reminder of their position within the social hierarchy. The consequences of failing to meet these expectations were severe. Disobedience, whether intentional or not, often led to punishment. Such discipline was not just about correcting behavior, but also about reinforcing the social order that kept the Roman world turning. Punishments varied in their severity and form, ranging from verbal reprimands to physical chastisement. These measures were not only intended to deter future infractions, but also to serve as a visible reminder to others of the importance of adherence to the rules. Physical punishment, though harsh to modern sensibilities, was a common method of discipline. The forms it took were numerous and could include beatings or lashings, administered swiftly to address perceived disobedience. Such measures were often public, ensuring that the lesson learned by one was shared by many. This public nature of punishment was a tool in itself, a communal reinforcement of the societal norms that everyone was expected to follow. Beyond the immediate physical repercussions, there were other forms of punishment utilized to maintain control. Deprivation of food or rest served as a milder yet effective reminder of a slave's place. Isolation, too, could be employed, removing an individual from the communal aspect of slave life, and thereby emphasizing their dependency on the system. Each method of discipline was carefully chosen to fit the infraction, aiming to restore order with minimal disruption. Despite the severity of these measures, there existed an understanding, though not universally applied, of the need for a degree of balance. Excessive harshness could lead to diminished productivity or even rebellion, neither of which served the interests of the master. Thus, while discipline was an integral part of control, it was tempered by the practicalities of maintaining a functioning workforce. Masters who were overly cruel risked losing their slaves' willingness to work, which could ultimately undermine their own standing and prosperity. In some cases, slaves who displayed exceptional loyalty or skill could find themselves in positions of relative trust. Such individuals might be granted responsibilities that required a level of autonomy, though always within the boundaries of their servitude. This trust, however, was meticulously monitored, as any breach could lead to swift and severe repercussions. The granting of responsibility was as much a tool of control as it was a mark of favor, ensuring that ambition did not outgrow loyalty. The rules and expectations that governed the lives of Roman slaves were more than mere guidelines. They were the bedrock of a system designed to sustain an empire. Through discipline, the Roman societal order was preserved, allowing a diverse and vast population to coexist under a singular framework. The consequences of disobedience, though harsh, were integral to this structure, ensuring that each cog in the machine operated smoothly. Yet within this system there was an underlying tension, a quiet acknowledgement of the precarious balance between control and chaos. The effectiveness of discipline relied on its ability to instill an understanding of limits, both for the slave and the master. In this way, the rules that governed daily life were as much about maintaining order as they were about preserving the delicate equilibrium upon which the vast Roman society depended. As the sun set over the Roman landscape, the day's expectations began to fade. Yet the echoes of discipline lingered, a constant reminder of the structure that defined every moment. In this world, where the consequences of disobedience were ever present, the rules provided a framework within which both slaves and masters navigated their existence. This intricate system of discipline and punishment was essential, ensuring that the Roman world continued to thrive, one obedient step at a time. In the sprawling expanse of Roman society, there existed a world where trust and responsibility intermingled, quietly shaping the lives of many. Among those who inhabited this world were slaves, whose roles extended beyond mere labor. While bound by the constraints of ownership, some slaves found themselves entrusted with significant responsibilities, managing the affairs of their masters with a level of authority that seemed at odds with their status. In the intricate workings of Roman households and businesses, certain slaves were selected for their acumen and reliability. Their roles evolved beyond the typical expectations, as they were tasked with managing finances, supervising other slaves, and even conducting business transactions. These individuals were often educated, sometimes more so than their masters, possessing skills in accounting, languages, and negotiation. Their ability to handle such tasks was crucial, for Roman life, especially among the elite, was complex and required meticulous management. The responsibility bestowed upon these slaves was considerable. They might be entrusted with the household's financial accounts, a task that demanded precision and honesty. In some cases, they managed estates, overseeing agricultural production or the operation of workshops. These slaves acted as intermediaries in transactions, negotiating prices and ensuring that goods and services were exchanged smoothly. They were the silent operators who ensured that the wheels of commerce continued to turn. Yet, for all their responsibility, the authority granted to these slaves remained limited. Decisions of great importance were ultimately reserved for their masters, who retained the final say in all matters. This delicate balance of trust and control underscored their existence, A slave might manage vast sums of money, but without the autonomy to decide its ultimate use. This paradox was a testament to the peculiar dynamics of Roman slavery, where trust could coexist with profound restrictions. The trust placed in these slaves was not without its rewards, albeit modest ones. Often they were granted privileges not afforded to their peers. They might receive a small stipend or enjoy better living conditions, reflecting their valued position within the household or business. These rewards, however, were contingent upon the continued favor of their masters, highlighting the fragility of their status. In this world of nuanced responsibilities, the relationships between slaves and their masters could be complex. Trust was built gradually, often over years of service. A slave who demonstrated loyalty, discretion, and competence might find themselves gradually elevated in status, though always within the confines of their servitude. This relationship was one of mutual dependency, where the master's reliance on the slave's skills was balanced by the slave's need for the master's approval and protection. Yet, despite the trust and responsibility bestowed upon them, the reality of their condition was never far from the surface. The authority they wielded was borrowed, always subject to revocation. Their status, though elevated, could not transcend the fundamental imbalance of power that defined Roman slavery. Every decision they made was made on behalf of another, every success credited to their master. In this quiet dance of trust and responsibility, the lives of these slaves unfolded. They navigated a world where their skills were both their greatest asset and a reminder of their limitations. Their contributions, while essential, were often invisible in the grand tapestry of Roman society. They lived in a world where trust was both a gift and a reminder of the boundaries that circumscribed their existence. The passage of time, measured in the slow accumulation of tasks completed and duties fulfilled, marked their days. Each decision, each transaction, was a step in the careful balancing act that defined their roles. Through their diligence and competence, they maintained the rhythm of Roman life, their efforts woven into the fabric of a civilization that depended on their unseen labor. In this quiet world, where the weight of responsibility was matched by the constraints of status, the lives of these slaves were a testament to the complexities of trust. They lived in a space where authority was both real and illusory, a reflection of the intricate social order that governed their lives. Through their efforts, they sustained the households and businesses that formed the backbone of Roman society, their contributions quietly shaping the world around them. As the day turned to night, the responsibilities of these slaves remained, ready to be resumed with the dawn. Their lives were a continuous cycle, a testament to the enduring nature of their roles. In the quiet moments of reflection, they might ponder the balance of trust and responsibility that defined their existence, a balance that, while delicate, was the foundation of their place in the world. Within the subdued framework of Roman society, where the lives of slaves were often defined by unyielding duties and rigid hierarchies, there existed another world. This world, less visible yet profoundly significant, was shaped by the relationships slaves formed amongst themselves. These connections were not forged from the grand gestures or dramatic events that might populate other tales, but rather through everyday moments and shared experiences. In the quiet corners of bustling Roman households or the expansive fields of rural estates, friendships began with simple exchanges. A brief nod of recognition or a shared task at dawn could blossom into a bond of mutual support. Such relationships were often built on shared hardship, where the common challenges of their constrained lives fostered understanding. These were not just connections of convenience, they were lifelines that provided emotional sustenance in an environment where few comforts were guaranteed. Family ties, too, played a significant role within the slave community, albeit in forms that were sometimes altered by circumstances. In some instances, families were fortunate enough to remain together, working side by side. Yet, the threat of separation loomed large, as ownership could shift and families could be divided. Despite this, many slaves endeavored to maintain familial bonds, creating family-like structures even among non-relatives. These surrogate families offered a sense of belonging, a reminder of identity and continuity amid uncertainty. Communication among slaves was often conducted in hushed tones or during fleeting moments of respite. A whispered conversation while tending to household chores, or a quiet exchange during brief moments of rest in the fields, allowed for the sharing of stories, advice, and news. Through these interactions, slaves were able to pass on knowledge and skills, ensuring that the wisdom of the community was preserved and shared. In the absence of formal education, such informal networks were vital. They enabled the transfer of practical skills, such as the best techniques for completing tasks efficiently, or the subtleties of navigating the complex social dynamics of a household. This shared knowledge became a form of empowerment, an unspoken understanding that, while they might not possess autonomy, they could still exert influence over their own lives. The gatherings of slaves, whether during permitted festivals or clandestine meetings, provided opportunities for more substantial interaction. These moments, infrequent but cherished, allowed for a sense of community to flourish. It was here that stories could be told, songs could be sung, and laughter, a rare commodity in their daily lives, could be shared. Such gatherings reinforced the solidarity among slaves, a reminder that they were not alone in their struggles. The bonds formed were not solely supportive, however. They could also be pragmatic, as alliances were sometimes necessary for survival. Working together, slaves could better negotiate the demands placed upon them, whether by dividing labor more efficiently or providing cover for one another in times of need. This cooperation was a testament to their resilience, a quiet defiance of the roles imposed upon them. Trust, an essential component of any relationship, was both a precious and precarious commodity among slaves. In a world where betrayal could lead to severe consequences, choosing whom to trust was a careful decision. Yet, once established, this trust became a powerful bond, one that could withstand the pressures of their environment. It was through trust that slaves could confide in one another, share their hopes and dreams, and find solace in the presence of a reliable friend. Despite the constraints and challenges, the relationships among slaves were rich and varied. They were characterized by a depth of feeling that often went unrecognized by those outside their community. These connections were essential to their well-being, providing emotional and sometimes physical support. They were the threads that wove together the fabric of slave society, creating a tapestry of resilience and quiet strength. While the world around them often sought to define them solely by their status, slaves found ways to define themselves through their relationships. In these bonds, They discovered aspects of their humanity that could not be taken from them, no matter the circumstances. The friendships and family ties they nurtured were a testament to their capacity for compassion and solidarity, an enduring aspect of their lives that offered both comfort and hope. In reflecting on these relationships, one can appreciate the profound impact they had on the lives of Roman slaves. They were a source of resilience, a means by which they could endure and even thrive within the confines of their existence. Through friendship and family, slaves found a way to assert their identity, to connect with others in meaningful ways, and to navigate the complexities of a world that was often indifferent to their plight. These relationships, though formed quietly, were a powerful testament to the endurance of the human spirit. In a society that often reduced them to mere functionaries, slaves demonstrated through their bonds that they were, above all, individuals capable of love, loyalty, and kindness. In this way, they resisted the dehumanizing forces around them, preserving their dignity and humanity in the most challenging of circumstances. In the soft light of morning, the streets of ancient Rome begin to stir. Among the bustling sounds of the city, the footsteps of those who move with purpose echo gently. These are the slaves, integral yet often unnoticed figures in the daily life of the empire. As the day unfolds, they interact quietly with the free citizens, their presence essential yet subtly defined by the layers of social hierarchy. In the early hours, before the sun rises fully, the slaves are already engaged in their tasks. Among the marketplace stalls, they barter and purchase on behalf of their masters. Here, amidst the fragrant aroma of fresh produce and the murmur of merchants, slaves conduct transactions with a quiet efficiency. Their interactions with the free Romans are marked by a polite deference, an unspoken acknowledgement of the societal divide. The marketplace serves as a meeting point for various classes, yet these encounters remain largely transactional. A slave presenting the coin of their master may receive a nod or a few words of acknowledgement, but rarely more. The free Romans, often preoccupied with their own affairs, see the slaves as extensions of the households they represent, rather than individuals with stories of their own. This social invisibility, quietly accepted, forms the backdrop to their daily exchanges. As the day progresses, the role of the slave expands beyond the marketplace. Within the grand homes of the elite, slaves perform tasks with a quiet diligence. They polish marble floors, tend to elaborate gardens, and ensure that the household runs smoothly. Although they move silently within these opulent spaces, their efforts are crucial to the comfort and status of their masters. Here, interactions with free Romans are more personal, yet still bound by the invisible lines of hierarchy. The relationship between a slave and their master can vary widely. In some households, a trusted slave might be granted a degree of familiarity, acting as a steward or confidant. Yet, even in such circumstances, the boundary remains clear. The slave's position is one of service, a role defined by duty rather than choice. The free Romans, aware of this dynamic, often navigate these relationships with a calculated distance, recognizing the dependence without fully acknowledging the individual. In the bustling streets, slaves and free Romans often cross paths. A slave carrying a message or delivering goods might pause respectfully to allow a free citizen to pass. These small gestures of deference are woven into the fabric of Roman society, subtle acknowledgments of the social order that governs every interaction. The free Romans, accustomed to their position, may pass by without a second glance, their attention focused elsewhere. Within the confines of workshops or shops, slaves work diligently alongside free citizens. Here, the boundary between free and enslaved can blur slightly, as both contribute their skills to the trade. A slave skilled in a particular craft might work closely with free artisans, sharing tools and techniques. Yet, even in this collaborative environment, the distinction remains. The free Romans, though perhaps more familiar with the slaves they work alongside, still regard them through the lens of ownership and hierarchy. In public spaces, such as the grand baths or the bustling forums, slaves are present but unobtrusive. They accompany their masters, attending to needs and ensuring comfort. The free Romans, engaging in conversation and business, often overlook the silent presence of the slaves who facilitate these gatherings. This invisibility is both a shield and a constraint, allowing slaves to navigate the complexities of public life while remaining firmly anchored in their subordinate role. The legal framework of Rome reinforces these social dynamics. Slaves, regarded as property, lack the rights and protections afforded to free citizens. This status shapes every interaction, a constant undercurrent that defines the limits of their agency. The free Romans, aware of these legal distinctions, often engage with slaves in a manner that reflects this imbalance, maintaining a distance that ensures the hierarchy remains unchallenged. Despite these constraints, moments of humanity can emerge. A kind word or a simple gesture from a free Roman can illuminate the day for a slave, a small recognition of their personhood within a vast and complex society. These interactions, though fleeting, offer glimpses of connection across the divide, reminders of a shared humanity that transcends social structures. As evening approaches, the streets of Rome gradually quieten. Slaves, having completed their tasks, retreat to their quarters or continue with the evening duties. The free Romans, returning to their homes, carry with them the comforts and privileges of their status. The day's encounters, shaped by hierarchy and social invisibility, fade into the background, leaving behind the subtle imprints of a society built on these intricate relationships. In this complex tapestry of daily life, the interactions between slaves and free Romans continue to unfold, quietly defining the rhythms of the empire. Through these encounters, the invisible threads of hierarchy and service weave together, sustaining the social fabric of ancient Rome. Each day, these interactions play out, a consistent backdrop to a civilization that thrives on the contributions of those who remain unseen, yet indispensable. In the subdued corners of Roman society, where the grand narratives of history often overlook, there existed a quiet, persistent search for meaning among those who lived as slaves. Their days were filled with toil, dictated by the needs and whims of others. Yet, within this realm of servitude, there remained space, however small, for personal beliefs and modest rituals. These were moments that offered solace, a respite from the demands of their daily lives. For many enslaved individuals, religion and spirituality were not merely abstract concepts, but rather intimate companions that accompanied them through the mundane and the arduous. Within the varied tapestry of the Roman world, religious practices were as diverse as the people themselves. Slaves often brought with them the deities and rituals of their homelands, weaving them into a rich mosaic of beliefs. In these acts of devotion, they found continuity and connection, a bridge to their cultural roots that transcended their present circumstances. The Roman pantheon, with its myriad gods and goddesses, provided a framework that was both expansive and accommodating. Slaves could find divine figures that resonated with their personal experiences, offering prayers to deities that embodied strength, protection, or the hope of freedom. In whispered invocations or silent meditations, they sought comfort and guidance, small affirmations of self amidst the vast machinery of Roman life. In the quiet moments before dawn or under the shadow of night, slaves might gather in secret to share these spiritual practices. These gatherings, though small and often unnoticed, were significant. They fostered a sense of community and solidarity, even under the watchful eyes of their masters. The shared rituals created bonds among those who partook, a gentle reminder that they were not alone in their journey. Beyond organized religion, there existed personal rituals and superstitions, unique to each individual. These might include the careful placement of a small token, a whispered mantra before undertaking a difficult task, or the habitual tracing of a symbol for luck. Such practices, though simple, held profound meaning, offering a semblance of control and agency in lives otherwise dictated by others. Slaves also found comfort in the natural world, which served as a silent witness to their struggles and triumphs. The cycles of the moon, the changing seasons, and the steadfastness of the stars provided a rhythm that was both predictable and eternal. In these natural phenomena, many found a source of peace and reflection. The quiet constancy of nature offered a counterbalance to the unpredictability of human affairs, a steady presence amid the flux of daily existence. Amidst these spiritual pursuits, there were moments of unexpected joy and warmth, small comforts that punctuated the routine of service. A shared smile, a gentle word, or a brief pause in the day to enjoy the warmth of the sun could offer a reprieve from the rigors of labor. These ephemeral pleasures, though fleeting, were cherished. The bonds formed with fellow slaves often extended beyond shared hardship to include shared moments of laughter and relief. In such interactions, the weight of servitude momentarily lifted, allowing room for humanity to emerge. These connections, though constrained by circumstance, were vital. They provided emotional nourishment and the reassurance that, despite their conditions, they were valued and seen. In this myriad of small comforts and personal beliefs, slaves found ways to navigate the complexities of their existence. These practices did not erase the challenges they faced, nor did they alter the fundamental nature of their reality. Yet they offered moments of transcendence, an opportunity to rise above the immediate and engage with something greater. Through these quiet acts of devotion and personal rituals, slaves maintained a semblance of identity and dignity. In a world where their autonomy was severely limited, the ability to hold on to personal beliefs and find solace in small comforts was an act of subtle defiance and resilience. It was a testament to the enduring human spirit, capable of finding light even in the most constrained of circumstances. Thus, within the margins of Roman society, amidst the shadows of grand villas and bustling markets, the enslaved found their own paths to meaning and solace. These paths, though often unseen and unrecorded, were integral to their lives, offering a gentle refuge from the demands of the day. In these quiet spaces, the enslaved held onto their humanity, nurturing it with belief, ritual, and the simple comforts that life, however constrained, could still bestow. In the vast expanse of Roman society, the concept of freedom for a slave was as elusive as it was coveted. The notion of manumission, the act of a slave being granted liberty, lingered like a distant horizon, visible yet often out of reach. As with many elements of Roman life, the path to freedom was varied and complex, shaped by circumstance, opportunity, and the whims of those in power. In some households, the possibility of manumission was a quiet promise, a reward for years of loyal service. This potential for release from bondage was not merely an act of kindness, it was a tool of motivation, a means to ensure diligence and obedience. A slave with the hope of freedom might work with greater fervor, their efforts driven by the prospect of a life transformed. Yet, this hope was always tempered by uncertainty, for the decision lay entirely in the hands of the master. For some, freedom was earned through exceptional service or particular skills. Skilled artisans, scribes, and those who managed the affairs of their master's estates occasionally found themselves in positions of trust. They might be allowed to keep a portion of their earnings, gradually accumulating enough to purchase their own liberty. This process was slow and fraught with challenges, as each coin saved represented countless hours of labor. Still, the act of setting aside even the smallest sum was a quiet rebellion against a life unchosen. In other instances, manumission was granted as a symbolic gesture, a public demonstration of a master's benevolence or a reward for bravery. Slaves who had accompanied their masters in battle, or those who had saved them from peril, might receive their freedom as a mark of honor. Such acts, while rare, were celebrated within the community, the stories of courage and loyalty echoing through the corridors of history. The legal frameworks surrounding manumission were themselves a testament to the structured nature of Roman society. Freed slaves, known as libati, did not become entirely independent upon their release. Instead, they entered into a new social contract, bound by obligations to their former masters, who now became their patrons. This relationship was marked by mutual expectations, respect, support, and continued loyalty. A freed individual might still find themselves entwined in the rhythms of their former household, their newfound autonomy balanced by ongoing dependence. For many, the hope of manumission was a distant dream, a possibility that flickered at the edges of their consciousness but seldom materialized. The barriers to freedom were numerous, and the harsh realities of life often intervened. Illness, injury, or a change in the master's fortunes could swiftly alter a slave's prospects. Additionally, the Roman state imposed taxes on manumission, further complicating the path to liberty for those without means. The denial of freedom was a weight that bore heavily on many, yet even within these constraints, small acts of defiance and expressions of individuality persisted. Slaves found ways to assert their humanity, whether through quiet acts of resistance or the cultivation of personal relationships. These moments, though fleeting, served as reminders of their intrinsic worth beyond the shackles of servitude. For those who did achieve freedom, the transition to life as a freed person was both an ending and a beginning. The status of freedman or freedwoman came with its own set of challenges and opportunities. Some rose to prominence, leveraging their skills and connections to build prosperous lives. Others found the world beyond servitude to be as demanding and uncertain as the one they had left behind. The enduring hope for freedom, whether realized or not, shaped the lives of countless individuals within the Roman Empire. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the desire for autonomy and self-determination, a constant undercurrent in a society that often sought to suppress it. In contemplating the possibility of freedom, slaves navigated a delicate balance between aspiration and acceptance, their journeys as varied and complex as the world they inhabited. In the quiet moments, as the day's labor drew to a close, the thought of freedom lingered, a gentle reminder of dreams yet to be fulfilled and the enduring strength required to pursue them. As the sun dipped towards the horizon, casting long shadows over the Roman landscape, the lives of slaves took on a quieter, more contemplative pace. For those who had spent years in service, the passage of time was marked not by the striking of a clock, but by the slow, steady decline of physical strength. With each passing year, the signs of aging became more apparent, not only in the lines etched upon their faces, but in the subtle changes in their daily routines and responsibilities. Once, these slaves might have been the first to respond to the demands of their masters, their youthful vigor making them indispensable. But as the seasons changed, so did their roles within the household or estate. Tasks that had once seemed simple required more effort, and their usefulness was quietly reassessed. In a society where efficiency and productivity were paramount, aging slaves found themselves navigating a delicate balance between contribution and obsolescence. For some, the transition was managed with care, as they were gradually assigned duties that required less physical exertion. Instead of working the fields under the hot sun or carrying heavy loads, they might be asked to oversee the younger slaves, passing on the skills and knowledge they had gained over a lifetime. In this way, their experience became a valuable asset, and they found a place within the hierarchy that did not demand the same level of physical endurance. Yet, not all experienced such a gentle shift. In many parts of the Roman world, the expectation of relentless labor persisted, regardless of age. The body, however, had its limits, and as strength waned, so too did the ability to meet these expectations. The fear of being deemed useless loomed large, a silent specter that haunted the quiet moments of their day. For these individuals, the prospect of reduced capability brought with it an unsettling uncertainty about their future. For those who had managed to earn a measure of trust and responsibility, age could sometimes bring a different kind of opportunity. Entrusted with tasks that relied more on judgment and less on physicality, they might find themselves managing small aspects of the estate or household. This shift in role came with its own challenges, as the mental demands replaced the physical ones, requiring a new kind of endurance that was no less taxing. In the evening light, as work slowed and the air cooled, there was a moment to reflect on the day's labor and the subtle changes that marked the passage of time. The camaraderie among slaves, a bond strengthened by shared experiences and hardships, was a source of comfort. Conversations turned to memories of their earlier days, and stories were exchanged about the challenges and triumphs they had faced together. This sense of community provided a support network that eased the weight of aging, offering solace in the knowledge that they were not alone in their journey. Despite the challenges, the aging process also brought with it a certain wisdom and resilience. Having navigated the complexities of Roman society for so long, these individuals had developed a keen understanding of their surroundings and the people within them. They learned to listen more, observing the subtle cues and undercurrents that shaped their world. This insight often proved invaluable, allowing them to anticipate needs and respond with a quiet efficiency that belied their years. As the day drew to a close, the night sky slowly unfurled its tapestry of stars, and the world seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of rest. For the aging slaves, this time of reflection brought an awareness of their place within the unending cycle of life and labor. Though their bodies might have grown weary, their spirit remained steadfast, a testament to the enduring strength forged through years of service. In the gentle quiet of the night, as exhaustion gave way to rest, they found a moment of peace. It was a time to lay down the burdens of the day and embrace the solace of sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring its own set of challenges and rhythms. Yet, there was comfort in the familiar routine, a reminder that life, in all its complexity, continued to unfold with a steady, unhurried grace. In this way, the aging slaves of Rome carried on, their lives a quiet testament to resilience and endurance in a world that rarely paused to take notice. As the day gently winds down, the air cools and shadows stretch lazily across the cobblestones. The Roman household begins to settle into a familiar rhythm, one born of countless days of repetition. For the slaves, this time marks the transition from the relentless pace of daily duties to the quieter, albeit brief, respite of evening. The final tasks of the day beckon, each a quiet ritual signaling the day's end. In the kitchen, the faint aroma of simmering grains and vegetables drifts through the air, a simple concoction prepared with the remnants of the day's provisions. The cooking fire, having served tirelessly since the pre-dawn hours, continues its steady flicker, casting a warm, inviting glow. Slaves move with practiced ease, their motions smooth and unhurried as they stir pots and arrange modest portions. This communal effort culminates in a shared meal, a moment where the day's burdens are momentarily set aside. Gathered in small groups, slaves partake in these humble meals, often standing or seated on worn benches. Conversation is sparse, a low murmur blending with the soft clinking of pottery. This time of nourishment is brief, yet it offers a valuable pause, a shared experience amidst the solitude of service. Here bonds form silently, strengthened by the shared understanding of their intertwined fates. Once the meal concludes, attention shifts to tidying the space, ensuring all is prepared for the morrow. The hearth is carefully tended, its ashes cleared, and the remaining embers banked to ease the morning's rekindling. Each task is performed with subtle diligence, a testament to the ingrained rhythms of servitude. In the corridors and storerooms, slaves tend to the tools of their trade, aligning them with precision for the tasks that await at dawn. The comforting routine of this preparation provides a sense of stability, a small semblance of control in lives largely dictated by others. With the tools neatly arranged, the physical symbols of their labor are set aside, ready to be wielded again as the sun rises. Elsewhere, the gentle sweep of a broom marks the passage of a slave through the quiet halls, gathering the day's dust and debris. The rhythm of sweeping is steady and calming, a soft whisper against the silence of the evening. This final act of cleaning is not merely a task, but a ritual, drawing a line under the day's activities and setting the stage for the night to come. As the last light of the sun fades, the slaves retreat to their quarters, spaces often shared yet offering a hint of personal sanctuary. These sleeping arrangements vary greatly, from cramped storerooms to larger communal areas, yet each space is imbued with a sense of belonging. Here, amidst the muted chatter and the gradual quieting of the household, the slaves find a semblance of rest. In these moments of solitude, reflections of the day may pass through their minds, a gentle cascade of thoughts and memories. The weight of exhaustion tugs softly, guiding them towards sleep. Despite the day's demands, there is a quiet resilience, a strength found in the simple act of closing one's eyes and surrendering to rest. As night deepens, the household falls into silence, a tranquil pause before the cycle begins anew. The air is still, and the world outside seems to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable stirrings of dawn. In this interlude, the dreams of the slaves mingle with the night's stillness, a tapestry of hopes, memories, and fleeting glimpses of freedom. This nightly routine, repeated with unwavering consistency, forms the backbone of life for a Roman slave. The predictability of each day provides a rhythm, a framework in which they navigate their existence. It is a life defined by service, yet within the confines of duty, there exists a quiet dignity, a testament to the endurance of the human spirit. As the first light of dawn approaches, a gentle resolve takes hold. The tasks of the day await, familiar and unyielding, yet approached with the same quiet determination as always. In this way, the cycle continues, each day a delicate balance of toil and rest, woven into the fabric of Roman life. And so, as the evening gives way to night, we leave the slaves to their slumber, their lives woven into the vast tapestry of history. Theirs is a story of silent resilience, of lives lived in the service of an empire, yet each with its own quiet strength and enduring hope. In the vast expanse of human history, there are systems that quietly underpin the grand narratives we often focus upon. The Roman Empire, with its vast territories and remarkable achievements, was supported by such a system. It was a system that went largely unnoticed, yet it touched countless lives and shaped an entire civilization. This system, one of servitude and labor, was woven into the very fabric of Roman society. Each day, the lives of Roman slaves unfolded in a cycle of duties and responsibilities. These lives were not filled with great events or noteworthy deeds that would find their way into history books. Instead, they were marked by the steady rhythm of service, the kind that sustained the daily functioning of the empire. The life of a Roman slave was a life of quiet endurance, one where moments of personal significance were often overshadowed by the demands of the day. In the Roman world, slavery was not an aberration but an accepted norm. It was a system so deeply embedded that it seemed as natural as the rising and setting of the sun. The roles filled by slaves were many, and their contributions, though largely invisible, were indispensable. They were the hands that tended the fields, the minds that managed accounts, and the quiet presence that maintained the order of households. These roles, varied as they were, shared a common thread of service. Slavery in Rome was not a monolith. It adapted to the needs of the empire, evolving over time and varying greatly depending on location and circumstance. In cities, slaves might be found in workshops or bustling markets, while in rural areas they labored on vast estates, following the slow cycles of the seasons. The diversity of their roles reflected the complexity of the society they served. Yet, despite the differences, the essence of their lives remained the same: service without autonomy. The scale of slavery in Rome was extensive, touching almost every aspect of life. It was a system that allowed the elite to enjoy lives of leisure, free from the burdens of mundane tasks. The wealth generated by slave labor fueled the economy, and the efficiencies gained through their work contributed to the empire's prosperity. Yet, this prosperity came at a cost, borne by those whose lives were circumscribed by the demands of others. For many slaves, the hope of freedom was a distant dream, a possibility that lingered on the edges of their lives. Manumission, the act of freeing a slave, was a reality for some, though it was not guaranteed. The path to freedom was fraught with uncertainty, often requiring years of savings or the goodwill of a master. For those who achieved it, freedom brought new challenges as they navigated a world that had once been closed to them. Yet, the prospect of freedom, however remote, provided a glimmer of hope in lives otherwise defined by constraint. The relationships formed among slaves were shaped by shared experiences and mutual reliance. Bonds of friendship and, occasionally, family provided a semblance of normalcy in an existence dictated by the needs of others. In quiet moments, away from the watchful eyes of overseers, these relationships offered solace and support. They were a reminder of the humanity that persisted despite the dehumanizing nature of their condition. As the day waned and tasks were completed, there was a moment of respite, a brief pause before the cycle began anew. In these quiet moments, slaves might find comfort in small rituals or personal beliefs, drawing strength from the intangible. Such moments were precious, offering a sense of identity and meaning in lives otherwise defined by service. This system of slavery, though largely invisible, was a cornerstone of Roman civilization. It was a system that sustained the grandeur of Rome, enabling its achievements and cultural advancements. Yet, it was also a system that demanded much from those who lived within it, shaping their lives in profound ways. The legacy of this system is a complex one, interwoven with the history of the empire it supported. As we reflect on the lives lived in service, we are reminded of the resilience and quiet dignity of those who endured. Their stories, though often untold, are a testament to the human spirit's capacity to find meaning and connection even in the most challenging circumstances. In the grand tapestry of history, their lives form a subtle but essential thread, one that reminds us of the unseen foundations upon which great societies are built. In considering this system, we are invited to reflect on the nature of service and the lives shaped by it. The Roman Empire, with all its glory and achievements, was a product of many such lives, each contributing in its own way to the collective whole. As we acknowledge this, we gain a deeper understanding of the past and a more nuanced appreciation of the human experience. The story of Roman slavery, like many stories of history, is one of complexity, shaped by the interplay of power, necessity, and human resilience.